Whatever you might be going through and wherever you might be, this is Omar Serrato with the Tilted Lawyer Podcast. I'm here to take your mind off of things. Yes, I'm an attorney. No, I'm not giving you legal advice. We're going to sit and talk like people, as these are the candid thoughts of one practicing attorney, and it's after hours. So have a seat. Feel free to have a drink and join me. Let's get started.
Happy Friday again, folks. This is Omar Serrato with the Tilted Lawyer Podcast. And, I guess we got some business to tend to. Number one, we're going to be doing a mock deposition with Anita the Internet Sleuth. She is backstage right now. She's going to be prepping to play her role as Blake Lively. We're going to see how this goes. I have not given her the questions ahead of time. We're going to play this like it's a real deposition. What we're not going to do is I'm not going to be like impeaching her with exhibits or anything because she's not the actual real person. Also, I don't expect her to have although she probably does have encyclopedic recall of all the facts. I just don't want to waste time with that. I'm just going to ask her the questions. We're going to go through a brief, what I would tell her as her attorney walking into the deposition room, and she'll have that to prep with. And then we're going to get into that. But before that, I have not had a comment. I have not had a chance yet to comment on the amicus brief that was written and submitted on behalf of the Lively parties with regards to Elyse Dorsey, an attorney advocate of survivors of SH. So she gave a heartfelt, a brief about what she felt was the necessary provisions of 47.1, why it was necessary and why it empowered women who were victims just like her because of her experience in her own case where she was countersued for $108 million for a defamation claim based on her claims of SH. Now, I was just learned, and mind you, I've just had an opportunity to read this brief, and I've had my thoughts, and I was preparing my thoughts. I've heard it mentioned that she might have lost and been awarded $108 million. I have not seen that corroborated. And in the 30 seconds of time I had to research it before I went live today, I have not corroborated that. So take that with a grain of salt. I have no information whether or not that's true or not. What I do know is that she made these arguments, and I had some thoughts about them. To the extent that what she's stating is true, I feel like there's remedies for that. To the extent that it isn't true, there's some things. Let me just share on screen some of the highlights of her amicus brief. I've heard some people pronounce it amicus brief. As long as I've been an attorney, I've only heard it as amicus, and so that's what I'm going to say. So that's how it is, and that's how we shall proceed in life. Where did my window go? Is it... Oh, crap. Do I not have it up? Yeah, it should be this thing. Oh, I have to actually have it like that. That's not fresh. Okay. There we go. All right, so this is her amicus brief. She starts off that she's an attorney and advocate for survivors of sexual harassment. Ms. Dorsey, herself a survivor of SH, and like Ms. Lively, was subject to a retaliatory defamation lawsuit. As a result of this experience, Ms. Dorsey advocates for stronger statutory protections for survivors of sexual harassment, especially for those who wish to speak up about their experience. Ms. Dorsey supports Lively's invocation. Anyway, here's her argument. She mentions the Me Too movement had exposed the widespread nature of such misconduct and empowered survivors to share their experiences, but recent backlash has ushered in a troubling rise in retaliatory defamation lawsuits. This sentence is misleading insofar as, does she think that this is the first time that this has been an issue? Like, what do you mean, a rise in defamation lawsuits? It's not that there's been a rise in these lawsuits. It's, I feel, been the opposite. There has been an increase of these SH lawsuits, which has led to a rise in people defending themselves with claims of defamation, because when you believe that you're being falsely accused of something in a very public way that would lend itself to the cause of action of defamation, that's what you do. But for situations where it's a completely frivolous, without basis lawsuit, something that would be punishable, like, for example, by Federal Rule 11. If there's a modicum of truth that makes it a triable issue, it has been for hundreds of years now the case that people are allowed to defend themselves against these causes of action. And so to state that the Me Too exposed this widespread nature of misconduct, I don't think it exposed anything. It was widespread knowledge that those kinds of things that were happening. All Me Too did was give a name to the movement and concentrate it in such a way that people used that to unjustly enrich themselves. In some cases, in the guise of donations for Me Too, it led to a rise in these frivolous SH claims. Two of them immediately come to mind. There was a claim against Aziz Ansari. He is a very famous comedian. I don't know how famous he is anymore, but there was this lady who very publicly went to the press and to the media about wanting to or feeling like she was sexually harassed because she went on a date with Aziz Ansari and then proceeded to proclaim that she felt pressure and that they engaged in relations that night. And afterwards, she kind of had buyer's remorse. And she just felt like she only did that because she felt pressure in the date. She didn't mention anything that he overtly did to like assault her or whatever. Essentially, she had relations with the guy and felt bad about it afterwards. Maybe it wasn't the greatest performance. Maybe it wasn't her best night. Maybe she had a little bit too much. Maybe a lot of things. But the bottom line is she never said that she did not consent. She said, I consented because of all of these things. Which is not the same as the thing that she was trying to make it out to be, which was basically an essay. She received a lot of backlash because of that, because that's taking the Me Too movement too far. Look, it's one thing to go from these casting couch situations with that one guy that's sitting in a jail cell right now. What the heck was his name? Harvey Weinstein, Bill Cosby, all of these other famous antagonists of the Me Too movement. It's quite another to say, hey, yeah, I kind of regret my decisions. And you know what? I think it was his fault. It was his fault because he whined and he dined me. And, he made me feel like he made me laugh at his jokes. And when I was sitting on the couch with him, I felt like I couldn't leave. And I just kind of gave in because it was kind of going with the flow. And then afterwards, I felt bad about it because it wasn't the best. And you know what? I think that I was graped, which is basically what she was trying to say. Now, that didn't ever go anywhere because it was a ridiculous claim, a ridiculous argument at the height of the Me Too movement, and it caused what might have been a very positive movement for women. And it's still, the message behind Me Too is a very positive one. Victims of these kinds of crimes should feel empowered to be able to come forth with their crimes. The trouble with that is people have latched onto it and used it as a shield for nefarious behavior. There was another situation where everybody wanted to be a victim of SH. Everybody was a victim of SA in some regard. The very famous situation where this lady is literally on CNN and she's accusing Morgan Freeman, of all people, of SHing her in the middle of an advertisement for a film they were working on. I forget what it was. And then she played it and it's like, okay, so what did he do? And then it was literally her talking about she felt pregnant or something, or she looked pregnant. And all Friedman says is, oh, I guess I would have liked to see that or something like that. And that was it. And then she's like, okay, I know how that sounds, but just look at his face. His face was like X-ray visioning me in my clothes and everything. And I felt harassed. Like, okay, look, at some point, there's a line. There's a line. At some point, you can't just, everybody's guilty of SA, SH, whatever. You can't have it that every little thing is under a microscope for a crime. It is counterproductive to the movement of Me Too. There has to be very clear structures to deal with claims that are both meritorious and claims that are frivolous. And now I haven't even got to the Blake Lively very famous 17-point SH letter to the Wayfarer parties and all of that. You can't accuse somebody of sexual harassment because you invited them into their trailer while you were doing whatever you were doing, inviting them in, and then they look at you as like, oh, well, look at that. I wasn't expecting you to be like that. And then say, hey, he was trying to cop a look. Come on, Blake. I mean, at some point, there's a line to this. I mean, at some point, you have to have merit to your claims. And so the Me Too movement, for whatever you think it was supposed to be, has not been that. There has been violent swings of the pendulum in both directions. To the point now where we have come up in California, at least, with this new litigation, 47.1, the infamous 47.1, that imposes treble damages in the event that you claim as a defense or countersue as a defense against a claim of sexual harassment against you and are unsuccessful in your claim. You, with no discretion from the court, there's no mitigating circumstances whatsoever. And so what that means is it punishes you whether or not there was an absolutely frivolous case, and it punishes you whether or not it was questionable. And the jury had to make a determination because, yeah, that kind of looks like defamation, but was it really? Was it by clear and convincing evidence defamation? I'm not so sure. And then, it's like one of these wobblers and where it could go either way. Well, you lost, so treble damages anyway. There's no protection under that. And then the question becomes, at what point is that not a violation of First Amendment protections? If all you're trying to do is defend against what you feel are viable defamation claims against yourself. That's really what we're talking about, isn't it? So she cites Me Too. Falsely, I believe it claims it exposes the widespread nature of such misconduct. By the way, I received a shout out to Colonel Kurtz. I didn't know who she was, but she reached out to me basically to talk about this amicus brief, and she had definite opinions. And I don't know where that's going to go. I know that there's some things in the works, but she is a professor, is my understanding, and she had very definitive opinions about this very topic. And I think a lot of people do, because I think a lot of people recognize that, look, we have to find a way to empower victims of sex crimes without violating the Constitution. Let's start with that. I think the big question for me, which hasn't really been ferreted out, is whether or not 47.1 represents a breach of constitutional protections for those that try to avail themselves of the American court system to lodge a complaint against their accuser of a viable defamation claim, where they may have evidence in support of it that's not frivolous, and the effect that it's having in chilling their thoughts of doing that. I've literally heard lawyers say, you know what, I think he should just drop the defamation claim because I think it's not worth it to risk treble damages. I've heard attorneys say that. The fact that we're even getting there, that we're even having to have that discussion tells me that this is a chilling statute that violates First Amendment protections. The same way that they are claiming that it's necessary to promote First Amendment protections of victims that 47.1 seeks to protect. And so, I continue. Ms. Dorsey's story, like Ms. Lively's, exemplifies this disturbing trend. After overcoming years of sexual harassment from her law professor and then boss, Ms. Dorsey faced a retaliatory defamation suit seeking $108 million in damages. And again, I've heard from a couple people that she lost and had to pay those damages. I have not seen that confirmed anywhere, and I've had like 30 seconds to research it. So I don't know if this is still pending or not, or ongoing, or she actually lost. I don't know. This is what's in her amicus brief. Telling one's story of sexual harassment or abuse is never easy. It is often the last resort. That was certainly the case for Ms. Dorsey. She saw coming forward as the only way to protect vulnerable women. Ms. Dorsey first reported that now former professor at the university, which conducted an investigation lasting approximately 20 months and found multiple causes for termination. After this protracted and costly process, Ms. Dorsey and her co-defendant were forced to endure yet another 18 months of exhausting, expensive, intrusive, retaliatory litigation. The plaintiff in that litigation, Ms. Dorsey's former law professor, admitted in private text messages to his friends that he filed the litigation to bankrupt his accusers, not with any expectation of winning his defamation claims. So I read that a couple of ways. Either he's stating that he thinks that it's defamation, but he doesn't think he's going to win because the evidence bar is so high, and he understands how defamation causes of action work and how hard it is to win those claims. And he says, look, it's the only way to defend myself. I think I was defamed. I don't know if I'm going to prevail on it, but at the very least, it's going to serve to force them to pay for the litigation, fund their own litigation or whatever. I mean, unless they're taking on a contingency, right? In which case, it's the law firm that's footing the bill. So he wrote, maybe defamation for fun, but not to win. You can interpret that as, yeah, he's got a frivolous case. He's just doing that to, and in which case, if you could prove that, then I think that there are already remedies to sanction against those frivolous, against a frivolous claim like that. Rule 11 would be one of them, right? And I've already talked at length about Rule 11 today. Another one is, isn't it the case that if you proceed to trial in a federal cause of action and you fail, that the losing party is subject to pay the attorney fees and costs to the victorious party? And so her claim is, one of the arguments that she makes, I think it's later on in this document, is it's not fair that people that bring claims like this have to proceed with no expectation of ever recouping the monies that they're spending on this litigation. I mean, there's already built-in protections for that, and it's not even limited to these sexual harassment claims. 47.1 takes it a step further and says, if you bring this claim and lose, treble damages. Whatever she's asking for, times 3. With irrespect of whether or not there was any merit whatsoever to the cause of action. Meaning it treats a frivolous complaint exactly the same as a legitimate complaint, but is on the fringe. Meaning we need a jury to decide one way or the other. All right. Numerous states have enacted legislation designed to combat strategic lawsuits against public participation, SLAPPs, like the litigation Ms. Dorsey faced. Protecting survivors from Weaponizing Defamation Lawsuits Act, California 47.1 is one such statute. This is what it says. By providing a legal shield, anti-SLAPP laws can empower whistleblowers like Ms. Dorsey and Ms. Lively to share their experiences without the threat of protracted retaliatory litigation. The problem with that is not every claim of sexual harassment is a valid claim. Having been a litigator for 11 years, I've seen plenty of false claims of SH. Plenty. From my own clients, where when pressed, when there's no evidence, and if that's all they have, it comes out in the wash that, yeah, we're just doing this because we want them to suffer. And then it's like, well, there was never anything to it, so what are we doing? In criminal cases, in civil cases, in domestic violence cases, it is not a secret that there are people, men and women, that will weaponize the court system to protect themselves for whatever purposes they want to protect themselves in a litigation case, to gain the upper hand in custody and visitation, to gain the upper hand for monetary benefit. Because what are you going to do? You're going to tell your wife that you're cheating? And so therefore, she sues for sexual harassment, and then he doesn't want to go to trial because it would expose his illicit affairs and blow up his whole family, so he's going to pay. Now, those are specific examples, but the point is the point. Not everybody who brings these kinds of claims is genuine 100% victims. So how do we protect people from false allegations without giving rise to these frivolous claims of SH and SA, without subjecting them with this loaded gun, which is the treble damages? That's always been the issue of 47.1. She says, by imposing financial consequences on those who bring SLAPPs, the Protecting Survivors Act changes the calculus, adding a financial downslide for SLAPP plaintiffs and thus deterring bad faith harassers from weaponizing the courts and wasting valuable judicial resources. There's already SLAPP protections if they want to bring that. 47.1 just exacerbates it by 3. She goes on to tell her story. She gives some background and stuff, and then she says this. On March 20th, 2025, Ms. Lively filed her pending motion to dismiss, arguing that the Protecting Survivors Act shields her from retaliatory defamation suits, such as Mr. Baldoni's and the Wayfarer party's claims. The Wayfarer parties opposed Ms. Lively's motion, claiming her statements were malicious and fabricated. They also challenged the constitutionality of the Protecting Survivors Act. Ms. Lively's reply emphasized her reasonable basis for sexual harassment allegations and argued that the Wayfarer parties failed to plausibly allege malice. Yeah, and we're still litigating that. Whether or not there's going to be an amended complaint, whether or not they're going to dismiss claims, whatever, there's stuff. Sure, yeah, defamation claims are hard to prove, especially in defense of sexual harassment. But from what I've seen, the Wayfarer parties have also argued that if the judge simply connects the dots, they think that they've pled enough to demonstrate or connect the dots to lead to malice. Maybe they didn't outright explicitly state it, but it's not always the case in defamation claims that you know the blueprints of how it relates to malice. You just know the effect. And there's been a lot of different hemming and hawing about how this and that, and how Ryan Reynolds is behind the scenes trying to stain Baldoni's reputation to future prospective employers and the like. And so there's a lot of meat on the bone for Baldoni's defamation claim. The question is whether or not he should be afraid to go forward, knowing that it's not a slam dunk case, because the risk of going forward is he's going to pay her triple the damages, as opposed to what he's asking for, which is, the $400 million. Imagine that. If she got $400 million, that's $1.2 billion. A ridiculous number by any measure for that 17-point less. And when I get into some of my questions in my mock deposition with Anita, we're going to explore some of the ridiculousness of those claims. Ms. Lively asserts that, well, I'm not going to read all that. So she starts making these arguments, and then she goes on again about the Me Too. Me Too movement brought significant attention to the issue of sexual harassment. In October 27, actress Melissa Milano exposed Harvey Weinstein in a New York Times publication on sexual harassment. In a viral social media burst, the list of powerful men joining the list of accused sexual harassers grew daily. The movement expanded its scope to demonstrate the prevalence of harassment across industries of all types. Me Too swept the nation, allowing survivors of sexual abuse to share their experiences and expose the pervasiveness of sexual harassment and assault on a broad scale. Me Too has helped bring about policy changes, workplace practices, public awareness regarding sexual misconduct. She gives this survey, according to a survey of legal profession, 75% of respondents experienced sexual harassment directly, but only 14% formally reported. The study revealed ineffective reporting systems in workplaces and minimal consequences for offenders that fail to deter harassment. Okay, so assuming that those numbers are true, here's what I think is going to happen with 47.1. I think there's going to come a day, obviously not today because it's a very fresh statute, where the constitutionality of 47.1 is challenged. And if they challenge 47.1, what they're going to find, and the reason that they're going to challenge it, is going to be based on First Amendment protections. How do you elicit? Well, the question is essentially this: by imposing these severe, automatic damages, penalties on a disfavored category of lawsuits, which in this case is defamation in defense of sexual harassment claims, the law is deterring not just frivolous claims, it's deterring merit-based claims. And since when has that ever not been a constitutional violation in the history of America? That is a fundamental First Amendment violation. 47.1, it's supposed to be this fee shifting application against people that fail in their defamation claims in a countersuit when they're facing these sexual harassment claims. How is that not a First and a 14th Amendment violation based on everything that we know? The government is not supposed to be able to punish people that have meritorious complaints, meaning if there's even a hint of evidence that relates to the truth of the cause of action, the government has no purview to punish people for bringing that lawsuit. Those are triable issues of facts. It's a principle that is embodied in the Noer-Pennington Doctrine. I'm certain that you guys haven't been familiar with this case, are familiar with that. It basically stands for the proposition that a lawsuit may only lose its First Amendment protections if it's a sham lawsuit, like a Van Sham or something. Meaning it's objectively baseless, without merit, no factual basis, no connecting dots, no connecting threads whatsoever. But if you can find merit to it, then it's protected First Amendment stuff. You can't just penalize people for bringing stuff. And so I think the question ultimately with 47.1 is, it feels unconstitutional on its face when judges have no authority to even mitigate damage. Okay, you lost, you're going to get some damages, but I can't make it lower than treble. I can't make it lower than triple damages. It is what it is. It's written in the statute. Sorry, my hands are tied. There's nothing I can do. And so I don't want to get too embroiled into the amicus brief. And so I won't. But those are my thoughts as it was written. I haven't had a chance to comment on it yet. I'm certain that there's going to be an opposition to this amicus brief, maybe multiple, if there hasn't been already, which we will further discuss. But since 47.1 has been such a point of discussion with this case, I wanted to address it directly. I do not fear 47.1 the same way that other attorneys do, not because it's not without teeth. I don't fear it because I believe in Baldoni's defamation case. And I don't believe in it because I have smoking gun evidence. I believe in it because connecting the dots with everything that's happened since 2021, it just feels a lot like they're trying to bully and defame for malicious purposes for financial gain, Justin Baldoni, out of stuff. And so that's my spiel on 47.1. I think without further ado, hopefully she's still here. Let me bring in Anita the Internet Sleuth. Anita, how are you doing, young lady?
Hello. Oh, wow. I almost opened my camera. Hello.
Oh, we're live too. There'd have been nothing I could have done about it.
Oh, no. I almost doxed myself. Just on that.
Oh,
But
I'm certain I've doxed myself before.
Before we continue, can I ask you a question about this
Of course you
brief
can.
or something? So, can anybody write an amicus? I still don't know.
No.
Amicus brief.
The answer to that question is no.
Who does it have to be?
You have to get permission or seek leave of court to be able to file it in the first place. You have to have specifically something to say of merit on the case. You have to have the requisite qualifications. In other words, basically, you got to be an expert on the topic. For example, a college professor, or for example, a litigator that's well versed in the law, or somebody that knows what they're talking about. They're not just going to hear from the general public.
Okay. How about this? So I understand that part. Mm-hmm. How about I collect 1,000 women all around the world, not just US. Jane Doe's 1 to 100. We all write privately our history of SH and SA, and even all of this, right? Mm-hmm. We find a person who can go and represent us in court who knows what it is, and we say why this should not be this. Like, how, I'm just asking a question, like, right? So this person decides to join.
Yeah.
What if we find like a activist group who don't believe them and who think that Lively is ruining because they also think that, you know, she's lying and they know? How can we, let's say, I'm just asking questions. How can one go this way? So it's not an activist group is doing, but actual real people who have an activist company or organization behind them.
Well, you can create an organization for that explicit purpose, and you can have a representative of the organization with the requisite qualifications to be able to speak intelligently on the issues that these 1,000 women want to talk about and raise in a highly concise, 7,000 word-ish amicus brief to respond to this one about the dangers of perhaps false allegations of SH and how it's destroyed the lives of many. Because I'm certain that there's, and I know because I've dealt specifically with these causes of action, that there's a lot of people on the other side that have been falsely accused. And is the harm of being falsely accused just as great as some of the victims of SH? Or come close? Or is it not worth at least visiting because you've destroyed people's lives on the basis of false allegations that were frivolous or whatever, I don't know. But that would be how you would do it. You'd have to have somebody write the brief for you with the pull to get the judge to agree to let you file. Yeah.
Obviously, then.
But yeah, it could be done. It could be done. It's been done before.
Would this be like, it's not, it's just, so again, I dismissed this whole thing. I was like, this is another proof that, she's grasping the straws.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, like, what if, like, people who support him actually, like, find a lawyer who can do it pro bono and who can actually represent all these people behind the scenes, and, like, in a sealed fashion, we can talk about what we went through and why we think she's ruining this for women.
Yeah, but it would have to be, I think you would be well advised to not argue the facts of the case.
No, not arguing in a way that, it shouldn't be dismissed. I think there is, like, to kind of support the not dismissal, kind of,
Yeah.
Because right now, the amicus brief that they received, they're representing an organization is fighting for them, but they haven't really included people, it's just an organization. I mean, I don't want to dismiss, and that's the sad part, like, I don't want to dismiss the organization part, but just want to show that there are people who think that if the other party has claimed so much facts already, and they haven't even shown, this shouldn't be dismissed. Like, I don't know how to say this.
No,
how long would it take to prepare this?
Well, you'd better do it pretty quickly because they're moving on. I mean, this amicus brief is going to be old news like next week. And so you could take as long as you want. I mean, theoretically, you could wait until however long you want, but ultimately, there's a procedure, a federal procedure that you got to follow. You request leave and attach to it your proposed amicus brief. The judge either lets it in or he doesn't. He's got wide discretion whether or not to do that. And so I'd imagine, because I've just heard through the grapevine that there's multiple people that want to reply to this because it's upsetting. I think that the amicus brief that was filed is just misleading and incomplete and conclusory. And I don't want to say it's poorly written, but it just doesn't tell the full picture. Because I'm willing to bet that, for this lady's story, look, to the extent that this guy filed a frivolous defamation suit against her for $108 million, fuck that guy. He should, be getting everything that he's getting, triple damage that guy. But there's got to be a mechanism where the judge is able to make a determination of whether or not there was merit to the claim. And if there's merit to the claim, then the damages that are imposed under 47.1 should be dismissed and fairly early on in the litigation. In other words, I think that maybe the way to do it is there's a separate hearing where the judge asks for an offer of proof as to the defamation, and you have to, almost like a probable cause hearing, demonstrate to the judge that your defamation case has merits. It's not based on conjecture or retaliation or whatever. And then he can either penalize right then and there if you don't meet that standard, or waive those damages and proceed as if it's a normal lawsuit. Maybe that's a way to do it.
Okay. Well, if you actually read the lawsuits, it says like they have plenty. Like they've said that outright. It's not like she's to say, she's exaggerating. She's outright lying.
Right.
Right? Wouldn't them proving that she lied is a defamation?
Not yet.
So lying about SH is not defamation?
Well, we don't know. Well, that first of all is a tribal issue.
But that's the thing. It's a fact. So that's why it cannot be decided now.
Yeah. So for example, there's right now a 12b6 motion to dismiss some of those claims, right? And some of it is based on like improper pleading. They failed to prove that, they failed to plead correctly the malice element of some of these claims, the defamation claim. They failed to meet their burden on some of this or that. And so maybe an order to show cause hearing, asking an offer of proof to see if we even have at least a prima facie case for this defamation to become a triable issue of fact. Just a very low bar. Just give me a modicum of evidence that shows me that a jury has to really consider this, or that a reasonable jury may consider in your favor, and then I'll erase the 47.1 damages. But the catch would be maybe if you can't meet that very low bar, then you're subject to everything inherent in 47.1. That would be at least a way to save due process, where you're allowed to tell the judge that you have this, or at least an inroads to stuff. Even if they're to say that, look, I don't have it in front of me right now, but we have reason to believe based on these facts, and we're trying to get in discovery evidence to place our name on an amended complaint that meets all of these things. And maybe that could be enough. I don't know. I'm just spitballing, really. But yeah, it's not enough to say that she lied. Because the question is not really related to her. It's related to, I know what you're saying. They have to prove all of the elements. Her lying about the SH is one element. They have to prove that she did it maliciously. That's not so easy to do.
But what do you mean? Lying about SH is not malicious by the US law?
No, it's not. You have to have, it has to be in exchange for some.
Sorry, what do you mean it's not malicious?
Okay, malicious doesn't mean like it's just like, it can't just be mean in nature. Like, for example, Ryan Reynolds was saying all these mean things about Justin Baldoni because he didn't like him, right? There has to be some tangible thing that he's going after maliciously, right? And part of that could be the movie credits. Part of that could be stealing the film because they want to turn it into a franchise. Part of that could be to excommunicate him from Hollywood so that he never works in Hollywood ever again. There has to be some tangible thing.
But he has said that in his, I think, to their motion to dismiss or something.
So I'm not arguing that he hasn't.
He has replied that the tangible thing is that, they might be going after the second movie.
I'm not saying that he can't I'm not saying that he can't bring a legitimate defamation claim. I'm just stating that there should be a way, like under 47.1, to defeat those damages, those punitive damages. And one easy way, I think, to do it would be to hold the equivalent of a probable cause hearing. Like an order to show cause, show me your theory and spell it out for me. After maybe, some measure of discovery. And just tell me that you're going to be able to argue a prima facie case of defamation that it could go to a jury and it's not going to be defeated on summary judgment. Like maybe getting defeated on summary judgment because he didn't meet your claims, or having it defeated on a 12b6 would be grounds for treble damages. But so long as it becomes a tribal issue, then it's not. Because I agree with you that I believe that they have enough to present a viable case on defamation. I'm just stating that the legal arguments for why they didn't. Maliciousness, it doesn't mean the same thing that you think it means. They have to tie it to something tangible. I think they have. Yeah.
Another, sorry, just like I'm just remembering so one of the things is like, how they got the phone and everything. In the phones, she thought she was being smeared. In the text messages, if they hadn't cherry picked, which we know they have, right? Let's say that they know that he didn't do a smear campaign because it's in the text messages. And then taking those text messages, I'm just trying to understand the law here. So isn't them lying not just about the SH, but also smear campaign malicious just to take him down?
Yeah, but the problem that we have right now is that they didn't plead it that way. They didn't spell it out like the judge's 5, the way that you should in pleadings. And so the pleadings, there's a reason why there's a couple sets of amended complaints now, because the pleadings were not pled in a way that makes it obvious. And I'm not stating that, even they stated that, look, it might not have been pled artfully, but if you connect all the dots and everything we're saying, we've pled all the elements. It's there. You just got to squint your eyes. You could see it a little bit. And so I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just stating that if you are able to make that case enough that a judge is convinced that this should go to trial, then 47.1.
If I deduce that, wouldn't judge be able to deduce that?
Well, I'm not sure if you have the same legal understanding as the judge. I think that you're wanting to punish them for different reasons than the judge is looking to punish them for, and that's the issue. I think a lot of people have that misunderstanding. It makes sense to think of it the way that you're thinking of it, but the limitations of defamation claims that Baldoni is pleading is that maliciousness, you have to demonstrate the maliciousness. It's not enough to say that Reynolds didn't like him, and so he started saying mean things about him. You have to tie it to fraud. You have to tie it, because he's pled what? He pled fraud, he pled defamation, he pled all these other things, and somehow it has to tie into some fraudulent scheme. That's really difficult to do, especially in the pleadings, especially when you don't have all the discovery and all the facts and evidence. And so I'm not saying that their pleadings are deficient. I'm just saying that's the reason why they're looking at these 12v6 motions right now, and talking about amending complaints, because they have to at least get over the pleading phase, which we're not done with the pleadings yet. And so that's all.
Okay. Just one last thing. I just remembered, because you were saying that, I just remembered, we got the transcript from their conference on February 3rd when they were talking about the AEO.
Yeah.
Did you read the transcript?
From the hearing? Yes.
Yeah. So I just something just popped in to my mind that he's because the Blake Lively side said something and the judge interpreted, he's isn't that what's being isn't that the question of fact? Because the other part was stating it, this is what happened, and judge was saying that this is the argument of fact. So he kind of clocked them that I'm taking both sides. Isn't that a good thing that he's already?
That's a great thing. It tells me that the judge knows that there's many issues of tribal facts here. Okay. And it also tells me that these 12b6 motions are unlikely to succeed. They're not going to get this case dismissed. I think the judge is going to give opportunity to amend if they need to. It tells me that there's merit to the claims. I agree with you. I was not trying to argue that Baldoni hasn't made the case. I think that he's said enough.
No, I understand that part. I understood that that's not what you were trying to explain. I understand that part. I'm just asking questions to kind of say that the judge is not blind to these things, obviously.
No, he's not.
And he's not. Blake Lively decides right now, all their filings are basically gaslighting, or they're trying to gaslight the judge too, but mainly the public. Anyway.
Yes.
Moving on.
I have many thoughts about that. But we got to get this deposition. We got to do the deposition. Are you ready? Are you ready, young lady?
Yes.
Do you have a glass of wine nearby? You're going to need it.
I have mint tea to calm my nerves.
Oh, you might want to wear a cup. I don't know if that I don't know if that translates to. Never mind. That's like athletics. Never mind. It was a joke from a TV show that I used to watch way back in the day.
Sorry. Go ahead.
You don't get the reference. It's cool.
Yeah. Just give a heads up about what I said before about me being Blake Lively, please. I don't want people coming after me.
Anita, I ain't afraid of you. They ain't afraid. And they are ready for you to become Blake Lively. All right, so let me just, all right, Blake, listen. This is a deposition. Your job in this deposition is to answer the questions exactly as they're asked, in as few words as you could possibly ask. If you find yourself going into a narrative, you're answering it the wrong way. Do not tell stories. You answer their questions. You don't have to feel the need to explain. They're going to ask you to explain things. You give them short and concise answers. The more that you talk, the more that you're losing in this deposition. Their objective is to keep you talking as much as possible. You can say 99% good stuff and say 1% of bad things, and that's the thing that's going to cost you $400 million. Do you understand?
Yes. Yes, but
in other words, if I ask you what you had for breakfast, what would your answer be?
Nothing.
Perfect. Perfect. If I asked you what time you got up in the morning, what would you tell me?
When my kids woke me up, I don't remember anymore.
You're already fucking up. You're already screwing this up.
But that's that.
I don't need to know about your kids waking you up. I asked you what time you woke up in the morning. The answer is 6 a.m. Right? You don't give extraneous details. Do you understand? Do you see the difference?
Ezra, as my lawyer, you should know how I talk by now, but I'll try.
It's not about how you talk. It's how I need you to talk, young lady. You need to pull it together. This is really important. I'm trying to play.
I got this. I'm doing this for all the women in the world, all the voiceless people in the world.
Everyone's depending on you. The more you talk, the more you're screwing them over.
All the women in the world. Yeah, right. I'm representing them.
So if I ask you about what time you go to bed at night, I don't want to know about your nighttime routine. I don't want to know about how you brush your teeth, you get ready for bed, you decide what clothes you're going to wear to bed, you watch TVs or falling asleep, or you need to be. I don't need to know any of those details. You give me the time. And
Can I talk about my skincare routine?
No, I don't want to hear about it.
Just kidding. I'm kidding. I'm joking.
I know, Blake. But you get the gist, right?
Got it.
Now listen, this is really important. If you don't know the answer to a question, say that you don't know. It's okay if you don't know. Now listen, there's a difference between I don't know and I don't recall. Do you understand the distinction? So if you don't know, yes. It implies that you never knew, meaning there was never a time that you knew the answer to that question. If you don't recall, it's like, well, I used to know that, but I don't remember. Maybe I could refresh your recollection with some kind of... Can I say,
I don't know, I don't recall?
Sure. Just, okay. Do you got to be a smart ass about it, though?
No, it's because if I don't know which one to say. Can I say both, just in case?
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Or just say, I don't remember.
Because then I can choose whichever suits better for the trial.
You could even say, I'm not sure. I don't recall. Okay. But you don't say, I don't know, unless you legitimately never knew. Okay?
Yes. So can I use my postpartum as part of the thing? My hormones?
Not unless I specifically ask you about postpartum.
Okay. Got it.
You understand?
Got it.
Like, for example, if they ask you what your role was in It Ends With Us, what would your answer be?
Lily Bloom. Actress. Executive producer.
Very good. I like that answer. That's very good. Just note that the game, there's a game to this. The rule, the way you score the most points is by saying the least amount of words. Do you understand?
Yes, I'll try.
If you find yourself wanting to cry, you're doing too much. If you find yourself wanting to argue and fight with the attorneys, you're doing too much. You let me do that. If there's something I don't want you to say, I will object.
Okay, so I was going to say, can I object? But
you cannot object. I will object. I will instruct you not to answer questions that I don't think you should answer. But for the most part, I'm going to let you answer all of these questions unless there's something that you've been asked and answered a bunch of times, and I'll say that, you know what, file a motion. But she's answered that 8 different times. That's one of the tricks in these depositions. They're going to ask you the same question 8 different times at different times of the day. Now, look, if this was a real-life deposition, this would probably take all morning and afternoon. We're going to do this in the space of 45 minutes, okay?
Okay.
So because of that, I'm not going to be going into exhibits and impeaching you with stuff and like doing the whole big Matlock moment or anything. Okay. This is a very bare-bones deposition. I'm not going to go through the formalities of, hey, so are you on any medications that might impair your testimony this morning? We don't have to. We're going to go right into it, okay?
Okay. Just, I think you need to let people know that you are my lawyer. You are preparing me for my deposition. You are not
right now.
Brian.
I'm playing Ezra. Yes.
Yeah,
right now I'm
I
playing
think
Ezra.
Some people were not clear. You are preparing me. Yeah. Okay.
Because this is what she's going to be told. You guys have to understand. This is the game of depositions, and we're going very bare bones. This is, by the way, not how I prepare my clients. I usually spend a good hour or 2 or 4 going through like the questions they're going to be asked, like preparing them as if I'm the other attorney, grilling them with questions, going through the exercise the first time so they could get all the screw ups out with me versus in real time. This is the 30-second version though, I guess. And so anyway, this is how I'd imagine they're going to talk to you. But do you understand? Okay, so what is the golden rule?
I don't know.
Say
I don't
as
recall.
few words as possible.
Okay.
No,
all right. We're starting already. Okay.
All right, you're ready to go. We're ready to go. Let's do this. Okay. We're going to skip the formality. There's a whole formality process where the people ask, oh, we're on any medications and stuff. Do you understand this and that? Have you had? We're not going to do all of those. We're just going to get right into the introductions. Like, Ms. Lively, thank you so much for coming. Now that we've got all that out of the way. You start as the lead actress in It Ends With Us, and also held a producer credit on the film, correct?
Yes.
You were aware from the outset that Justin was both the director and your co-star on this project, was he not?
Yes.
And at the start of the production, in May of 2023, would you agree that you and Mr. Baldoni maintained a positive working relationship on set?
Yes.
Like you guys are friends, correct?
I wouldn't call friends. Friendly.
Well, weren't you guys text messaging each other about various life events?
We were building good rapport with each other.
A good rapport. You're building a good rapport, correct?
Yes.
He would ask you about your family.
Yes.
You would ask him about his family.
Definitely.
You would share pictures of each other's family, wouldn't you?
Yes. We both have kids.
He would give you...
Okay, take it back. I can take it back.
I'm Ezra at you. I'm looking at you sideways because I'm Ezra right now. All right, I'm going back to Friedman.
And I'm being Blake because I already lost who I was supposed to be. I believe that's how she's going to be too.
You're doing great, Blake. Well, for example, during the weeks of filming, before the strike pause, you remember that, the strike? You had expressed no unease around Justin at any time because he had built up this really solid rapport with him. Do you remember?
That's not true.
What do you mean it's not true?
I called Angie from Sony, and I had already complained about Jamie and Justin showing me birthing video.
Around what date was that complaint?
I think it's towards the end of May. I remember that was when after I got COVID.
You got COVID. And you recall, you told me just right now that you were trying to build a solid rapport with him, correct?
Yes.
And what was the nature of the unease that you shared with, I think you said her name was Angie.
Can you repeat the question?
Yes, you said that you just made a complaint to a lady named Angie about Justin Baldoni. Yes. What was the nature of the complaint?
3 complaints. I talked about the sexy comment that Baldoni
Let's talk
made.
about, I apologize, Blake. You did talk about a sexy comment. Tell me about the sexy comment.
Well, we were filming a scene, and like I wanted my outfit to be one way because I was the costume designer, you know, like because I read the character and whatnot, and I thought she should be dressed a certain way. And
How did you think she should be dressed? I apologize. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Continue your answer.
I want, like, you know, in this day and age, like women are just meant to be a certain way, and for this character, because she had so much agency and autonomy, I just wanted her to be what would be the right word? Like all encompassing. I think that would be the right word. Yeah. She should be tomboyish, but also sexy, but flirty, and a little bit like a little ballbuster, you know. But at the same time, like that would be her sexiness. It wouldn't be sexiness. Wouldn't be just outfit-wise, but also like who she was, how she was carrying herself. So that was the vision.
I don't
And
understand the vision. What do you mean? So she wanted to be a tomboy and
that was my
everything-
vision.
Okay, your vision was she wanted to be a tomboy?
Tomboyish, but also sexy and elegant, just so that she can like switch from, it's not just like one woman is a certain way. I just
So you were
wanted
trying
to
to be
show
sexy.
I was trying to show that a woman doesn't have to be sexy. I'm an actress, so I act in the role that
All right.
I'm signed up for.
Were you
And this-
acting when you made this complaint to Angie about the unease you felt with Justin Baldoni?
Excuse me?
Were you acting in this complaint that you lodged against Justin Baldoni when you complained to Justin Baldoni, or I'm sorry, Angie, about a sexy comment?
I don't understand.
Well, tell me how somebody should act if they're trying to make a complaint about their offendedness at a sexy comment from a co-star.
Are you trying to imply I acted?
I'm not. I'm just asking a question. I'm not implying anything. But I would appreciate an answer to the question if you don't mind.
Of course I was not. I just found it ridiculous. That's why I didn't directly reply.
So what was the
comment? Of course not. Of course not.
Could you tell me, well, let's start with this. Could you tell me what the comment was that offended you so much?
He called me sexy.
In what way?
Like he was attracted to me and he just wanted me.
Isn't it true that in the context of which that text message was made, it was joking in nature?
Sorry? I don't understand. What do you mean?
Well, do you think that he was joking with you about it being sexy?
No, he was
Describe
not.
Describe the outfit for me that you were wearing that was supposed to be sexy.
I was wearing a onesie. This was like a bar scene, right? And it was a onesie.
Right.
And I decided like to add my own coat over it, although I know in the script it was different, but I had a different, because I was supposed to be Lily, and we agreed that I was going to bring my own glitter and yumminess into the character.
You're going to bring glitter and yumminess. Were you trying to make your outfit sexy?
No. I mean,
Okay, so
yes and no. Because as Lily, yes. But, my interpretation of yummy and sexy is completely different than a man's.
If you were trying to dress...
It's a female gaze. I would rather be called a sexy by a woman than a man.
Understood. That's completely relatable. Let me ask you this. If you were trying to dress sexy, how far down the list would a onesie be as opposed to anything else?
On a scale of?
1 to a million.
I mean...
You know what?
Okay.
Ignore the million. Let's say 1 to 100.
In my personal opinion?
Your personal opinion.
I love women who are a bit tomboyish and everything. So for me, that would be 1 to 100. I would call it a solid 75.
So there's 74 other outfits that you would wear before you would wear the onesie that would be more sexy than the onesie that you were wearing on set with Baldoni.
I'm confused. Can you, what are you trying to say?
Okay, so imagine you have a whole cabinet full of outfits. One of them is a onesie. 99 of them are other things that are not a onesie. You could fill in with your imagination whatever you feel would be the definition of sexy. Now take those 100 outfits. On a scale of 1 being the best, 100 being the worst, where would the onesie be in your wardrobe of sexiness?
I understand, but you're completely conflating everything. Being sexy for the character is not me being sexy for Justin Baldoni. Okay.
Well, sexy for the character, let's just use your definition. What number on the 100 outfits in your wardrobe does the onesie fit into?
75, that's fine.
So number 75.
I stick to the same, yes.
Okay, so there's 74 outfits that are more sexy based on your definition according to the character that you're trying to portray than the onesie.
Yes. I don't see
Okay.
how it's relevant, but okay.
Well, you said that you were offended by the sexy comment.
Yes, by my director. Yes,
Okay.
I was offended.
Is it possible that he was joking with you because you were wearing wearing a onesie that is objectively equivalent to a unitard, that is objectively, by traditional standards, not sexy, just a funny quip that Baldoni might have been offering to make a joke?
How, like, do you think he called me sexy in a mocking way as a joke? I don't understand.
Well, it's memorializing a text message, is it not?
Again.
Didn't he send this sexy comment to you in a text message? Isn't that the thing that you're complaining about?
No, that was on set in person.
And tell me, how did he say it? How did he say it? How did he tell you that you were sexy in this leotard? Not leotard. Unitard? Onesie. I'm sorry, it's a onesie. How did he tell you that you were sexy in this in this
So picture this.
Okay.
Right? So we're gonna shoot the bar scene. But not that bar scene. It's when we were like all wearing onesies. And we were going to be indoors. And I had this vision for the outfit. I know it was hot inside, blah, blah, blah.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And, and I had just had the baby. So I didn't want my full body to be exposed. So I added that coat as a accessory on top to make me feel more comfortable. And he was trying to get me take my coat off. And I said, no, I don't want to, because I had a different vision. And then he said, no, the onesie was sexy.
What tone was he? What was his facial expression when he said it?
He was trying to get me take off my coat. He was trying to convince me that I was sexy. Yes, he was trying to show that I was sexy.
Was there any exposed body parts in your onesie?
No, it was tight to my body, and it was showing my lovely figure after the baby, my fourth baby, just must I say. I worked hard for it.
You were offended then?
It is not an offense. It is he crossed the line.
Did you tell him that he crossed the line?
My face did, and he immediately apologized.
Well, what did your face look like when your face told him that?
Offended.
How does offended look?
Cross the line.
Did you stick your tongue out at him? Did you make a face?
No, I gave
was it like,
him the look. I don't think I needed to speak. I think he understood himself, and that's the whole point.
Well,
that
Anita,
I didn't even have to say anything. He understood that he was crossing the line.
I called you Anita. Blake,
yes.
I apologize to the court reporter in advance. We should do our best not to talk over each other, because this poor young lady is over here trying to take a full transcript of everything. So I'm going to do my best not to talk over you. I'm not the best at it, but we'll do our best to not talk over each other so that we can have a clear and concise record.
Okay, so let me answer the questions in full then, please. Thank you.
But for the record, I'm going to re-ask my question. What face did you make to clue him into the fact that he crossed the line?
I stared him straight in the face.
How?
With a dead stare. I don't know, just to show my point that, hey, you're crossing the line.
Sometimes when you stare at things with a dead face, that can mean a lot of different things. And which way did you point out to him that you were uneasy with his comment? Other than the face?
Sorry? Come again? I zoned out. I was trying to remember my face. I was trying to remember my face.
Character. Let me get back into character. Jesus Christ.
I am not opening my camera to show my stare. That's not happening. I know what you're trying to do. You're fishing.
Oh, I'm not trying to get you to open your camera. I'm just trying to get you to describe your face. All right. All right. Other than your facial expression, which you interpreted it as an unequivocal display of your displeasure at Baldoni's comment, what did you do to let him know that you were displeased?
Did I have to do anything else?
Well, I don't know well,
I went to Sony when I felt like
when did you go to
maybe
Sony?
the first time it happened, I was like, he didn't mean it, but I may let him know. And after that, things were just pervasive. So that's when I went to Sony. I went to Sony on the 26th of May, as per Baldoni's Exhibit A.
So you filed a formal HR complaint.
I didn't know how to file an HR complaint, so I knew what was the best thing to do. I went to my connection in Sony. I went to Angie in Sony. So I went and I called her and I let her know.
Isn't it true that she told you that the proper way to file a HR complaint is not with me? You got to go do this other thing. Didn't they instruct you the proper way to make an HR complaint?
They told me there was no HR complaint.
Well,
I didn't know. I wasn't directed. I just Sony was like way more powerful. So I went to them. I wanted them to sort it out. I didn't want to make a formal HR complaint because at that time I just wanted to set the boundaries. In my opinion, and in my experience, that was already like me making a complaint and letting them know that I was uncomfortable before escalating it to higher. I just wanted them to get their shit together.
You'd do well not to curse in the deposition.
Oh, excuse me. Sorry. Excuse my French.
I'm kidding with you. You can say whatever you want. Say whatever's in your heart. Would it surprise you to know that Angie has given testimony to the effect that she told you the proper channels to conduct a proper HR complaint, and you had full opportunity to do so, and under no circumstances, under any record that exists under the Wayfarer HR department, did you ever lodge a formal HR complaint?
I know what I have done. I'm not responsible for what other people have said on their behalf. I know what I have done. I know what I've been through, and I stand behind every word that I have written in throughout all my complaints and my amended complaint as well.
Other than Angie, who did you speak to regarding these HR complaints?
I spoke to everybody, actually, especially on January 4th. I wrote an email through my lawyer on November 9th, I believe. I'm lost in the dates, sorry, because there were just so many. But then on January 4th, when we had an all-hands meeting, there were other producers there. And I had a list of 30 things that made me uncomfortable throughout the set, and not just only me, other people on the set. So if that's not a complaint, I don't know what that is.
Well, I'll be sure to say a prayer to make sure that you get through this tough time, because I feel like you're avoiding the question. And the question is, you were explicitly told the instructions on how to file a formal HR complaint that would have launched an immediate investigation into the behaviors by Justin Baldoni that you claim made you uncomfortable. You were given this set of instructions and you ignored it, instead choosing to go through your own made-up channels. Isn't that true?
No.
Well, then who else? Well, then to whom did you make a formal HR complaint to? This is really important. I want to get to the bottom of this.
If you read my email sent on 9th of November, it states that the conditions to return to back to set are not exactly stating the facts, because I thought that if I wrote it down on paper to them, it would be so bad on them. I was trying to protect them, and that's why I decided to conduct it in person on January 4th, and I wanted to have witnesses, to corroborate what I had said.
So Angie is from Sony, correct?
Yes.
And she told you
Angie
to go to Wayfarer.
Giannetti, please use her full name. Yes.
Oh, Angie Giannetti from Sony.
Yes, please.
She told you to go to Wayfarer, didn't she? I will respect this woman. Angie Giannetti, I'm not even sure if I'm saying that right. Angie Giannetti from Sony instructed you to go to Wayfarer, correct?
When? In May?
when you went to her for your complaint in May.
Yeah, that one. She asked me if I wanted to make a formal complaint. I said I wanted to be a complaint directly at them. I wasn't like I don't know. I can't recall. I can't recall.
Oh, I appreciate that you can't recall. But
Sorry.
Angie Giannette, let's not disrespect this woman's name. She gave you instructions on how to file a formal complaint. She said you got to file a formal complaint with the Wayfarer parties. And one of the methods, the method to file a formal complaint was not through email. She gave you specific directives on how to file that complaint. Did she not?
I can't recall.
Are you calling Angie Giannette a liar?
I said I cannot recall.
Okay, but so it's probable, because we want to respect Angie Giannette, that she was doing her job properly, that she gave you the proper avenues on how to file an HR complaint, correct?
I mean, I am assuming so, but I cannot recall as to how it happened between us.
Fair enough. Let us move on. Prior to the production pause in mid-June of 2023, this would have been after your complaint to Angie, correct?
Sorry, can you repeat again?
No. I'm going to ask you a different question. No, I'll repeat it. So prior to the production pause, when production halted in June of 23,
yes,
you did not personally raise any complaints of harassment or discomfort with Mr. Baldoni's behavior to any producer or HR representative at Wayfarer. Isn't that true?
To my knowledge and understanding, Sony was the one who represented my complaint to Wayfarer.
Whom represented this complaint?
Angie Giannette to Wayfarer.
She did not. She explicitly told you that she did not. And matter of fact, she told you to go to Wayfarer. Isn't that true? So what person at Wayfarer did you lodge this complaint with?
I received a message from Angie Giannette, Justin Baldoni, apologizing and agreeing that, he will take precautions. So for me, the matter was resolved because...
That was not the question that I asked you, Ms. Lively. The question that I asked you was to whom at Wayfarer did you lodge your complaint with after being instructed to do so by Angie Giannette?
She didn't instruct me.
That's
I don't
not
recall.
what you said before. You said she did.
I don't recall.
Well, I don't. If you don't recall, then I don't know. And how could any of us know anything? Objection. I'll withdraw the question. Move to strike. Fine. In fact, production began in May of 2023. It continued until May of 2023, or I'm sorry, June of 2023, without any formal allegations. Isn't that true?
I disagree, but I don't recall.
Well, you sent an email, right? You sent an email.
Are we talking about June? I'm a bit confused.
We're talking about May, June. You said you sent an email, and that was supposed to be the equivalent of a complaint somehow.
No, I spoke. I sent the email June 9th. Oh, sorry, November 9th.
On November 9th. So not even, but up until June of 23, which would have been the time frame of the sexy comment. Wait a minute. So you're saying that the sexy comment happened in May of 2023, correct?
Yes.
And you didn't notify or file any kind of formal or informal complaint until November?
I mean, does it get any more formal than me calling Sony representative to talk like, can you tell me something that's more effective as a form of complaint?
It actually does get more formal. And that would have been via the instructions that were afforded to you by the lady whose name we shall not disrespect, Angie Giannette, when she gave you explicit instructions on how to file a formal complaint. Do you recall?
I repeat myself again. I do not recall, but I know I talked to her and she spoke with Justin Baldoni, who is the co-owner of the production studio, who is the director of the movie, who is my co-lead and my co-lead actor, sorry. And does it get more complainty than this? Like, what do you mean?
You said that you complained to Justin. You said you made Justin aware of your displeasure with a face.
That was my first warning, yes.
That's what you said, and that prompted your visit to Angie Gianette. Correct?
It was not immediately after that, but there were 3 other instances, and that's when I had enough, and that's when I called Angie.
Yeah, we'll get to those instances. I'm talking about specifically the sexy thing. But just for clarification on the record, the sexy comment happened in May of 2023. The first communication, other than the face that you made to Justin in May, to voice your displeasure at the sexy comment didn't occur until 6 months later in November of 2023. Correct?
Yes, but that's because there was a strike. So I was not in contact, like production was halted and everything. So
the answer is yes.
I wasn't working. Yes.
Very good. Miss Lively, let's move on. Let's talk about some other stuff. So let's talk about some of the specific instances of harassment that you allege in your filings. In your filings, you describe invasive, unwelcome, unprofessional, and sexually inappropriate conduct by Mr. Baldoni during the May to June of 2023 filming period. Do you recall? Well, let me give an example.
Yes, of course I recall. I cannot tell you the date, but I know how I felt.
Around that time period, though, correct? May to June of 2023. That sound about right?
Mainly May, yes.
Okay, so this included things like improvised physical intimacy. For example, there was an unplanned kiss during a scene, and you described that as intrusive behavior. There was other stuff like, number one, you remember the unplanned kiss scene, correct?
Yes. Oh my God, that was horrible, disgusting. Ew. Yes.
Awful, terrible thing. But there was also intrusive behavior, as you recall. Do you recall when people entered your dressing room while you were undressed?
Yes.
Excuse me. You recall sexually charged comments about Justin's sex life or his porn habits?
Don't remind me, yes.
Do you recall degrading remarks about your age or your weight?
Yes.
Have I pretty much accurately summarized the types of behavior that you were attributing to Justin?
Yes.
Okay, so that's pretty much the gist.
Sorry, I just had to reach out to the tissues because I'm traumatized. I'm getting re-traumatized, yes.
Would you like some whiskey? I got some Jameson.
My mint is calming my nerves. It's good.
Oh, okay. Can we just focus on the unplanned kissing incident? I know that brings you extreme grief and displeasure. When did this occur, and in what context did it occur?
Which time are we talking about exactly? Because there were so many.
Well, you tell me. You're the one that alleged it. When did the unplanned kissing incident happen, or were there multiples?
It's just a feeling that you have. Like you have to be there in order to really feel it. I know to the outside world it may not seem this way, but it's my truth, and I know that what I went through, and I will not be gaslit into thinking that was not the case.
Well, I've done no such thing. Matter of fact, I've just asked you very specific questions, and we'd get by a lot quicker if you just focus on my questions. I don't need your narratives, Miss Lively. And I don't mean to be rude. I just want to get out of here before lunch, if that's okay with you.
Yes. Can I get a refill on my tissues, please?
Yes, you may.
Thank you.
I bought a dozen boxes.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. So when did the unplanned kissing incident occur, and what was the context? I know that is a compound question. I'm asking it that way anyway.
I mean, it was so long time ago. I just remember, like, we were supposed to shoot a scene, and we're supposed to show a romance, and we tried it once, and then he kissed, and I didn't say anything, and then he kept on saying, "Oh, we need to reshoot because I don't know, the angle was not right." He had some hippie reason. He was just trying to get away with this. And then the first scene, he was doing one kiss. The second one, he was doing 2 kisses. So I was just a bit confused. I didn't know where it was coming from. And I did not consent to this. I did not consent to these changes.
Fair enough. Isn't it true that there was supposed to be an intimacy coordinator there?
Yes.
Isn't it true that you waived the presence of the intimacy coordinator?
No, that is not true.
Well, then what is the truth?
Pre-production time, I was supposed to meet her, and I didn't because, as I said, Justin and I, we were friendly. I trusted him at that point.
I thought you were offended by his sexy comments.
No, that was during production. That's the thing. We were, again, you're confusing things.
I'm not confusing things. I'm just looking for clarification.
Pre-production time, they asked me if I wanted to meet the intimacy coordinator, but at that time, he had met my family. Because we were writing the script together, and again, the scenes were not in there.
Okay.
And then I didn't need an intimacy coordinator then, but for production we need it. So I know that's the narrative that everybody's spinning out there, all the mommy sleuths and whatnot, but that's not how it happened.
Could I just point out, as Ezra, your attorney, I'm infuriated with you, and I'd probably be requesting a bathroom break to ream your ass about how you're not following instructions?
But you're not asking me yes or no questions. Am I supposed to say
that
I don't
is
recall?
The game. Remember when I told you that the name of the game is to say
by the way, to be fair, I think Blake is gonna do this because she thinks she's smarter. She will try to outsmart, and that's her personality. If you watch any of her videos, she's always trying to outsmart, and I don't think she's gonna do anything else during the positions. And she's gonna start off well, right, like me, and then she's gonna lose her shit.
She'll lose. Yeah, that's exactly what happened.
Yeah. So I'm playing my part. Right. Don't worry, I'm on the right track. But do rein me in, as Ezra would.
Oh no, I can't because I can't play 2 people at once. So
okay.
Just know that Ezra's kicking you under the desk as you're answering these questions. All right.
By the way, but Blake also never answers questions. If you look at her interviewers ask one question and at the end of the thing. So I'm doing good. Trust me.
From my perspective, if I'm like Friedman, I'm loving this because you're just digging yourself into a hole. You don't even know what you're doing.
And that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But after the depositions, after end of discovery, they're going to push for settlement. I don't want it. I don't think so. But they're going to push for settlement.
$600 million.
Yes.
How about that? Okay. All right. Resume. So was it during a take of the scene that this unwanted, unplanned kissing occurred?
Sorry?
Was it during the during the production, they were filming a scene when the unplanned kissing event occurred? Okay. Who was present on set at the moment?
Oh, so many people. Well, behind the scenes, or are we talking in the...
Who was there on the set? I want to know, just give me specifics. Who was there by name, if you could recall?
I can't recall.
Could we start with the date? What date did this happen?
I can't recall.
All right. How many people were there? Was it more than 5?
I can't recall.
Was
I
it
mean,
more than-
for sure, more than 5. Yes.
Was it more than 2?
Yes.
Was it more than 10?
I can't recall.
Was it less than 10?
I can't recall.
So at least 5,
Sure.
potentially more.
Sure. Yes.
Are you aware that this event was filmed?
Yes.
Okay. So at least the cameraman was there.
Yes.
And you're experienced in the production of films?
Sure.
Okay. So when the cameraman is present, who else is present?
Well, Justin was there.
Director?
So that makes 3. Yes.
Okay. Producer?
Yes.
Intimacy coordinator?
No.
What about extras?
I mean, there were some people in the background, I'm sure. I just don't recall the amount.
What time of day was it?
I can't recall.
What was the date, relatively speaking?
I mean, it was in May. I
Okay.
mean, for sure it was before May 25th. Somewhere
So-
between 15th to 25th of May.
During these unplanned kissing events, did you immediately object or pull away when Baldoni purportedly kissed you without consent?
No, I sucked on his... Sorry. I mean, no, I didn't.
I'm sorry. What did you say?
I said, I don't recall.
Okay. But that's not what you said. You said you sucked on his lip. Is that what you did? Was that planned in the
No,
script?
that was a joke. I'm a ball buster. I just like busting your balls.
I'm a ball buster too, by coincidence. And I just need to know, you're aware that this was on film, correct?
Yes.
All right. So what did he do? What did you do? Strike that. What did you do to voice your objection?
I don't recall.
Did you say anything to him?
I don't know.
Did you say anything to the crew at that time to indicate that what was happening was unwelcome?
I think not at that time, but I mentioned it to somebody else.
So
I just can't
nobody-
recall exactly.
Okay. So there was at least 5 people on set, potentially more, correct?
Yes.
And for the people that were on set, not a single one of them, you're telling me, is going to be able to testify that you made your discomfort known based on Baldoni's unwanted actions, correct?
I disagree.
So then who did you tell?
First of all, you don't understand the power dynamic here.
I didn't ask you about the
Baldoni-
power dynamic.
No.
I asked you about who you told.
You don't complain about your boss to your boss. You don't compare you don't know the feeling. It's just like he had this like presence there and everybody was, tiptoeing around him. So because of his ego, whatever you said, he would just like not receive it well. And I just didn't want to be fired.
So let me get this, just so I understand your testimony. You're saying that Baldoni's presence was so intimidating that it prevented
Absolutely.
you from alerting people.
Everybody knew it was an unspoken rule.
Would it surprise you to know that people view Baldoni in the opposite light? Let me strike that question. Would it surprise you to know that nobody has corroborated that characterization of Justin Baldoni that you just described?
I'm sure everybody felt that way because that's how he showed himself to be for them.
So if I go ask the cameraman, he's going to tell me the same thing?
I know my truth and
Okay.
I stand behind every word I said. I don't know how other people know about him. I don't care about how people think of him. I know how and what happened with me on set. I can only testify to that.
Blake, I have to tell you, Normally, I'd object to an answer like that because you didn't answer my question. I know you want to say what you want to say, but now's not the time for that. I have to get answers to my questions. And the more you evade my questions, the longer this is going to take. And I'd rather not spend 3 days deposing you. So in the future, if you could just kindly answer my questions, it would be greatly appreciated. It'll reduce your attorney fees. It will reduce my client's attorney fees. And we could get out on time with some semblance of sanity. Do you understand? I'm not trying to be a dick. I'm just trying to make sure that we get through this expeditiously. Do you understand?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you didn't tell anybody that was present on set, including Justin Baldoni, that you were uncomfortable with what he did during the filming of the kissing scene. Isn't that true? And that's a yes or no question, ma'am.
I don't recall.
Fair enough. Do you recall if I asked any of the people that were present on set if they would corroborate a story of you complaining to them or Justin that you were uncomfortable at the kissing scene?
I cannot testify to what people think they saw.
Totally fair. All right. So after this incident, ignore the people on set. Did you report it that day or to anyone in a position of authority based on the procedure that you were clearly giving unequivocally by Angie Giannetti from Sony to HR or anybody else at Wayfarer that Justin Baldoni took liberties during a kissing scene during filming?
I don't recall.
Well, shit. So is it fair to say that if nobody comes forward with, excuse my French, is it fair to say that if anybody comes forward that there's, well, what am I trying to say? Are you saying that you don't recall because you didn't make a complaint to anybody? Is that why you're saying that you don't recall?
I don't recall because there were so many instances that I'm sure I made some kind of complaint. To whom, I don't recall, but I am sure people on set were aware because some people may not have seen it that way, but some people were already uncomfortable with them, so they saw me be uncomfortable.
Well, that feels disingenuous, Miss Lively. It's disingenuous because
I
you
do
were
not
pretty...
care what you feel. This is my truth.
I appreciate your truth, but all I'm saying is earlier you were telling me very specific dates about when you gave, when you went to Angie Giannetti from Sony about a specific complaint about a onesie. It just feels disingenuous, wouldn't you agree, that you can't recall whom or whom you did not make a complaint to regarding this kissing scene?
Why are you minimizing my experiences of SA?
I wasn't asking
SH.
about your experiences. I was just asking who you complained about them to. Could you give me one person that you complained to these experiences about SA? Because SA is important and I'm supportive of victims' rights.
So many women go through this every day. So if every time something happened, every time they had to complain, do you know how many complaints there would be in this world?
Yes. Yes, I do. Let's move on, though. I want to ask you about the dressing room incident. Is that okay? Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
Okay. So regarding the claim that Mr. Baldoni entered your dressing room while you were in a state of undress, can you describe for me that incident?
Again, if you read my complaint, you can see that many times they entered my trailer without consent while I was pumping or breastfeeding, depending. I don't know. It happened at least 4 times. I just do not recall the times, but they did enter when I was, I had my top off and I was breastfeeding and my titties were out, and Yeah.
Ms. Lively, let us assume that I've read your complaint, and let's assume further that the reason I'm asking your question is because I've read your complaint. So as to not be confused as to why I'm asking these questions. I don't mean to be crass. But let me further ask you, did Mr. Baldoni knock or seek permission before coming in, or did he just barge in unannounced?
He kicked the door in. Just kidding again. I'm just trying to lighten the mood. He walked in.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
No
The mood
knocking.
needs lightening. No knocking. Did you invite him in?
I did not invite him in per se. Like, I know where you're going with this.
Mm-hmm.
But, just taking one text message doesn't mean, doesn't mean I gave him my infinite consent. Maybe at that time I was ready, like finishing with pumping, and I knew it would take him at least 5 minutes to get there. So I said that I was pumping. I know what you're referring to.
Good. So tell me about that text message. What did you say?
I said, we can read the lines, and I was pumping in my trailer and I was about to be done. So I knew it would take him some time. So by the time he would get there, I would be done pumping.
So did you hear him come in?
I saw him come in.
When you saw him come in, did you turn away and say, hey, my titties are out. Maybe give me 5 minutes?
As a man, you wouldn't understand what women have to go through.
Okay.
If I need to spell out to a grown man with a wife and 2 kids that he should go out and he should give me my space, then, like, do I need to spell it out?
Did you tell him that you were pumping in the text message?
I don't understand what you're trying to say.
Did you tell him when you invited him to your trailer that, hey, just so you know, I'm breast pumping?
Yes.
And what was his response to that?
That he was having lunch with the crew and he would get there.
But did you invite him in there anyway?
Sorry?
Did you invite him in there anyway, even after telling him that you were breast pumping?
He actually said he would meet me at hair and makeup trailer.
And where were you at that time?
In my personal trailer.
Not in the hair and makeup trailer, correct?
Actually, I don't recall.
Well, it sounds to me, if he's offering to meet you in the hair and makeup trailer, that means objectively that finish what you're doing, I'll meet you when you're decent. Is that fair to say?
I don't know.
Well, why did you invite him into your personal trailer if your titties were out?
Don't you think it's rude to talk to me that way?
I'm just using the language that you use, but I will use more formal language. Yes, I do think it's rude. So let me just rephrase like this. Why would you offer him an invitation into your personal trailer if you knew that you were breast pumping when he offered to meet you someplace else, when you could become decent and then meet him in a state of fully dressed?
Are you saying I wanted him to look at my titties?
No. Did you want me to repeat the question?
Yes, please.
The question was, why would you invite him into your personal trailer when you were breast pumping when he offered to meet you someplace else so that you could get your affairs in order?
I don't recall sending that text message.
You just referred to it several times.
Because I knew you were going to bring that up, so I was trying to give it context. But me personally, I don't recall that text message.
So because, then you referred to it.
Thanks to your Exhibit A, now I remember stuff that I didn't remember during postpartum. I think you're forgetting that I was like 4 months postpartum then. So I don't recall personally, but I'm trying to be fair and give context to everything you're saying, because everything has context, but I don't recall actually sending that message.
But you just said that...
I take it back.
Okay. But you just said that you reviewed that question and you were ready for me to ask you that question, which means you reviewed it, correct?
I reviewed, yes.
So is it true then that you recalled the text message? You just don't want to repeat what you recall because it's going to be harmful to your case?
I plead the fifth. I don't know. I don't recall. I don't know. I don't know. I'm lost. And I think this is what Blake is going to do, by the way. I know you're laughing, but I think this is going to be like, she's going to say things and then she's going to realize she dug her grave and then she's going to say, I don't recall. Anyway.
Oh, boy. You know you can't plead the fifth in a civil case, right?
I know.
Okay.
That's what, but Blake will try to. Because she thinks she's special.
How long did Justin remain in the room? And for what purpose? After you invited him into your trailer? While you were breastfeeding? I
don't recall.
Was it longer than a minute?
I do not recall.
Okay. Did you confront him or ask him to leave because you were in a state of undress?
I do not recall.
Did you report this incident to anyone at the time that it happened?
I told my husband when I got home.
But you were aware of the protocols with Wayfarer and how to conduct a formal HR complaint, correct?
I don't know. To my understanding and knowing, if I can talk to somebody in Sony who are way more powerful than Wayfarer, that for me, that actually goes above HR complaint that you guys are talking about. This is like the complaintiest of the complaints you can do. Getting Sony to check the studio, who we know is powerful. And what is the guarantee that they're going to do a fair investigation to their own director and producer? Do you understand?
No, by all means, keep going.
I don't recall.
I would not laugh like that in a deposition. Okay.
I know you think this is a horrible deposition, but I can send you like a compilation of like 10, 20 videos, and you will see and understand this is how she's going to be.
I got to believe that she's going to do better than this.
I think we should do flat, or like people are bored out of this.
We got flat in 13 minutes. Oh, all right. Let me just...
But yeah, I think I would be a much better Friedman or Justin or like... It's very hard to be Blake, by the way.
Yeah, well...
It's very hard because I know I'm on Justin's side, right? No,
yeah.
I actually don't want to call Justin's side. I'm on the side of the truth. So... Oh, FYI, like some people I saw comment, like... without a crystal ball, she received a cease and desist from Stephanie Jones.
Did she really?
Yeah, she just made a video about it.
For what?
Apparently, like, she's losing clients and stuff. Like, it's quite crazy. They're watching us. They're watching.
Oh, I know. They're watching us more than you know.
Yeah.
I spoke to Miss Lauren 90 over the past week. And, yeah, people are watching this shit, just so you know. By the way, I'll just point out, we're going to end the deposition here because I can't get into another subject without it like droning on. Just so you know, if this was a real deposition, my questions might have been objected to a lot more. I would have instructed you to answer the questions anyway because you're only allowed to object to the form of the question. It would have been a lot more contentious between the attorneys, I suspect. I would suspect that Lively would have been instructed. I got to believe she's going to do better than that. I have to believe. But they're pretty indefensible. You could see, like, when we get to the meat of these complaints. So when did you complain about this? When did you do this or that? Why did you invite them? She might have started
prepping. She might have already started prepping.
Oh, for sure.
This will be the, not to reference back to Amber. I don't think this is the same case, but this is going to be the acting of her life. Like, this will have to be the best acting of her life.
Well, we'll see. You did really good for the first like 2 minutes. And then you
And-
went off script.
By the way, this is what she is. This was intentional, by the way. This was intentional. This way
I
I
believe
started
that.
off and then I would lose my shit.
Yeah. it was good. Well, maybe we'll do it again later, like when you have more practice.
I preferred the Ezra versus Friedman part. I think that that's so much easier to do.
Oh, do you want to depose me as Justin Baldoni?
Oh yeah, but that's the thing. You don't know too much about Baldoni, do you?
I'd have to learn.
Yeah. So if you learn,
Yeah.
then yes.
Yo, I'm down. I'll let you play Ezra, and
Okay.
I'll be Justin. I'll answer
Okay.
it. Oh, I'll do that shit. That'll be fun. Take me
Okay.
straight back to trial team.
Yeah, you're
Let's
gonna
do it.
need to like, when you're driving or something, I need you to like listen to his podcasts and stuff, like a few things.
I'll
Because
fall
you
into
need to
character.
understand the essence of who he is in order
Yeah.
to play him. And yeah.
I think I get the gist. I think I know what to say as Baldoni. I think I'll be okay.
The gist is not enough.
You're right. I'll get the full. You know what
Yes.
I'll do? I'll be a method actor. I'll grow a hair bun. I'll have a hair bun.
Blake, is that you? Wow.
All
Don't
right,
mock
folks.
my cousin.
We got to get ready for FLAD. It starts in about 8 minutes or so. Folks, thank you for indulging us in this mock deposition. I love you all, and we will see you all in about 8 minutes. Do not miss Family Law After Dark. It's going to be a real good time. Anita's going to be joining us. Schnitzel's going to be joining us. Bruce and Brad. We'll see we'll see who else may pop in or out. But I love you all, and have a wonderful weekend. If I don't hear from you on FLAD, we'll see you all in a bit. Bye-bye.
Bye.